I call the member for Noosa.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Every day in some way, our community is deeply thankful for our heroes who take many forms, incredible people who put themselves and their lives on the line for us, keeping us safe or saving us. Firefighters, police, paramedics, we've heard so many. These are just some of these heroes, and in Noosa, as across Queensland, we are blessed with really incredible teams. In the past 2 years alone in my electorate, between our unprecedented fires, fatalities on our roads and in our waters, or as part of securing our community during the COVID emergency, dealing with traumatic sights and emotions that the rest of us do not is part of their daily reality. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is described as severe and persistent stress reaction after exposure to a traumatic incident or series of traumatic incidents. It can come about many months or even years after exposure, and the impacts can be equally traumatic, not only to the PTSD sufferer but to their loved ones, and we have heard many heartbreaking stories from MPs today. Acting Speaker, as we have heard, in 2018, a Beyond Blue survey found higher rates of psychological distress, mental health conditions and suicidal thinking and planning among first responders. Work cover claims are 10 times higher than to the general Australian workforce. They also found that police and emergency services personnel who are exposed to the workers' compensation system reported it unhelpful or even detrimental to their recovery. 61% reported a negative impact on their recovery and 69% that they had received limited to no support during the claims process. The Workers' Compensation and Rehabilitation and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2020 seeks to amend the Workers' Compensation and Rehabilitation Act 2003 and the Workers' Compensation and Rehabilitation Regulation 2014 to introduce a presumption of injury for workers' compensation claims by first responders and eligible employees who are diagnosed with PTSD. It focuses on providing an alternative claims pathway for those with PTSD that presumes they have a work-related injury, in effect reversing the onus of proof, unless it is proven that their injury was not caused by work. The aim is to promote early claims acceptance, and this is really important when we have these first responders already under severe duress. There are many roles across the public and private sectors in which workers may be exposed to traumatic incidences and may be affected by PTSD. Though not captured in this bill, we acknowledge the impacts of trauma on them. Our military, journalists that report trauma, people living with domestic violence and victims of violent crimes are just some examples. The committee has recommended a series of amendments to the bill to provide the presumption of injury for PTSD to additional workers, including coal mine workers, which we've seen the amendment come through, and employees who, as part of their regular duties, are required to attend and secure a site to provide safe access for other first responders. Workers whose employment requires them to recover human remains, and employees of a local government whose duties correspond to that of an ambulance officer, a corrective services officer or a fire service officer, or who are required to attend and secure a site, have also been considered. The Queensland Law Society raised concerns about the viability of the work cover scheme if the presumptive legislation is introduced, including potential floodgates, which may be opened by the broad definition of first responder and eligible employee currently proposed. In response, the department advised that it does not expect the introduction of the presumptive legislation to be detrimental to the viability of the workers' compensation scheme. And the committee has recommended that a review be conducted 12 months after commencement to consider additional occupations highlighted by submitters to this inquiry. As a society, looking out for each other includes having the legislation in which to do so, especially for those who look after us. I thank the committee and their secretariat, the department, submitters and attendees at the public hearing for their examination of the bill, and give deep appreciation to all of our first responders in all realms. Thank you.